Thank you for watching Let's Talk Influence, and today's episode is Using What You Have. I'm talking with Praveen, award-winning photographer, amazing creative person, director for a large company who's doing stories, but he's telling the stories through the lens. Praveen, in the last few episodes, it's been lots of takeaways. Especially, I like the passion in which you started, and the last episode spoke about consistency.
Yes.
Many people get passionate, get
Right.
excited,
Yeah.
but then if you're not consistent,
Yeah.
you lose the focus.
Lose
And
the plot.
the topic of this platform is Let's Talk Influence, and we're talking about telling the story through the lens. And in this topic, the big question is, okay, it's all great. People may look at you and say, Praveen is a professional photographer, fine, he's into this. But then there are people who are saying, I just have a phone with me. How do I start telling stories?
Yes.
So what's the first thing you would like to tell our viewers?
Yeah. That's $1 million question. I think, the first thing I'd like to tell our viewers is start with what you have. I teach at a lot of colleges. I've been a professor, and I keep getting invited to be external examiner for different for photography exams. And I've always noticed people's students' work, right? So I look through their album, and then under their photo, you have to, as a student, mark what shutter speed, what aperture, what camera, and what lens you use. And I look at these expensive cameras like Canons and Nikons and Sony Alphas, and
Gadget looks very fancy.
Gadget looks fancy. The photo is average, right? The photo is average, and I'm flipping through the albums, and I'm thinking, this could have easily been shot with a simple phone or any device, right? Why spend $1.5 or 2 lakhs on a body alone and then a lens for another lakh or so? It's a lot of money, right? What I want to explain is you can start with what you have. What you have is the best tool you have. Let me put it in perspective. When I started, at least, I remember my first computer had 2 GB. Right now our RAM in our phones have like 4 GBs, or it's crazy. So the supercomputer back then, 15 years ago, is now in your pockets, right? So the technology has grown so much. So what you have is actually incredibly powerful. So start with the device that you have. It could be a simple a small point and shoot camera. It could be a small Android phone that you have. Doesn't matter. You can start with it. There are photographers who make $1 million, like a lot of money, just by doing iPhone photography or phone photography, commercially. Ashwin, in 2005, I went to Masai Mara for the first time, and I had no idea about, the wildlife. And I mean, I knew a little bit, but there was this wildebeest migration that happens from, Masai Mara, which is in Kenya, to Tanzania. It's a spectacle. So I see these big photographers from National Geography and BBC and all these guys on their vans, taking. And I'm this guy who had on small Fuji point and shoot camera, right? And I took a shot, and it's one of my favorite shots ever, because for me it's not about the grandeur of the shot. Right? It's not about the, oh wow, look at. It's more about what that shot represents to me. It's these animals running down the hill. Dust is, going up.
Yeah.
It's trying to cross the Mara River. And I remember standing there, and the whole earth was shaking because that many animals are trying to cross the river. And there's crocodiles, down below trying to eat these guys up. And for me, that simple image, conveys such a profound story. So even now, I look back at that image that I shot with a simple Fuji point and shoot camera, and I don't think it matters what equipment you have. Listen, when you put up a story on a wall, or you print it and you put it up, when I look at it, will I know whether it was shot on a point and shoot, or a DSLR, or a simple Android phone? No. It's the subject, it's the matter, what it conveys, right? So what you have right now is the best equipment, I would say. So I think 3 things you got to look out for. First is, with what you have, it helps you build your creativity. When I was a kid, I didn't have many toys, right? So we were creative. Remember, we used to play with these, simple cups and saucers and, simple toys, and we made cars out of
In
cardboard.
fact, you get more creative
You get
because
more
you
creative.
don't have much.
Exactly. When you have a lot, it actually
Brings down your
creativity. But when you have, so in India we call it jugaad, right? So you come up with creative ideas. So creativity comes out, shines when you have limited
resources.
equipment, limited resources. So I really think that's number one. It helps you bring out innovation. Limited resources, it helps you bring innovation, right? How do you do a short film with one camera? Right? You have to do the shots again and again in different angles. And I think that we all grew up in that. I grew up in that. I never started with fancy equipment and camera. Yes, now as a professional, I do have it. But when I started my career, I started with what I have.
Correct.
I think the second thing is, it also helps you build your skill. As a young professional, if you're getting into this industry, and you think you can be a best photographer if you have a Sony or a Canon SLR, DSLR, only then I can be a photographer, that's wrong, right? You have to prove to me that I can tell you a story with what I have. Equipment only comes later.
Next.
Like Sachin can score with any bat. Talent matters, right?
inbuilt.
The way you see matters. This is what I teach my students in college. Forget the equipment. What I tell them is one of the exercises I do, and maybe this might help our viewers, is one of the exercises I teach is go out, whatever you have, phone, whatever equipment you have, go out and find alphabets in nature and create a word. For example, the simplest word is love, L-O-V-E. Go in nature and find objects that are in the shape of L. Don't recreate it. Don't take two sticks and put it together, but find. So what you're doing is, as you're walking in nature, you're looking for things that look like a V. Right? And then it helps you. So what you're doing is you're training your eye to see things differently. Then you'll realize your equipment doesn't matter. What matters is your...
It's also the same for the mind, no?
Yes. It's training your mind. It's training your mind. It's training your mind.
Many battles are won in the mind.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is more deeper, especially for influencers.
Yes.
Because as much as they're an influencer, it's how you train your mind to get into that. Yeah.
Correct.
Carry on.
And then last point, my third point was, honestly, cost effectiveness. Listen, today media equipment and lenses and cameras and software and Macs and all this is a lot of money. A young professional or somebody who wants to get into this, just to start off, they think we need 3 or 4 lakhs to invest in a camera, a good Macintosh.
They put pressure on the parents.
And they put the pressure on the parents. And, I want this, I want that. So I think, because it's so expensive, our industry, our equipment, and it's good because that's why it's called pro camera, it's meant for professionals, right? And because it's so expensive, I really feel if you're starting off, don't invest too much, see if you can borrow somebody's camera or you can rent a laptop. Nowadays, you can even rent lenses in Chennai. Do you know that? Rent lenses, rent bodies. So you can go to, so if you're going on a 2-day trip to Kodaikanal, rent a camera, 3,000 rupees, use it, come back, give it back to them, right? So you can think of unique and different ways to make this, you get the same quality that you want, but keep your cost low.
I think these points which you shared are unique, Praveen. The takeaway I get from this whole thing is, number one, the equipment doesn't matter, but the subject matters.
Subject matters.
I like what you said, that whole aspect of those animals coming and the dust there. And then it's just that capturing that subject.
Yes, absolutely.
Because when somebody looks at a photograph or looks at a magazine, they don't want to see in what lens they shot.
Nobody will know.
Nobody wants to know that.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to know. That's right.
But it's just that, what does its story convey? And I think that's key. So as we use what you have, so what it conveys. And number 2, the other takeaway which I see in what you're saying is also not just that, but then bring an element of, tuning your thinking to what you're going towards.
Yes.
I like what you said with your students, if you go after that subject, then every dimension starts to
looking different.
And there are so many simple elements of what we see, we miss.
Correct. So the students come back to me and say, sir, I've been on the street every day and I've never seen this, right?
Exactly.
And then you start seeing your own environment, your own comfort zone in a very different manner. Right? Your mind's eye is opened up and then things start looking, and then you're like, even a branch that's hanging out looks artistic to you. You're like, oh wow, what if I frame it this way, right? I also think you should also spend a lot of time, Ashwin, being inspired by other artists, right? You have to be inspired by photographers, painters, sculptors, whether you're interested in 16th century or modern or whatever. I think the more we expose ourselves, and we have the digital tools freely available. You can spend, YouTube can be a boon or a bane, right? You can use it for both. Same with Instagram, right? You can use to follow people that can inspire you. They take simple things, like a lake and a duck, duck and a lake, and then they make it look so beautiful, and then you are inspired. Okay, next time I go, here's what I want to do. So I think we should all be inspired by something.
Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway, Praveen. And I think the next topic, it just looks like we started the episode and we're almost done.
Yeah.
But the next topic is going to be even more exciting, because now since you got the concept of using what you have,
the
next topic is all about how to choose the right shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
okay,
a tough one.
I have this. Okay, fine. Yeah. I'm not going for the fancy stuff, but then I got to choose the right shot. Lots of people asking questions and emailing us and writing to us.
Yeah.
And all of them ask, what's the right shot?
Yeah.
Let's see you soon in the next episode.